what I have around me today, sitting on a table right in front of me. You can't see it. I can see it. My daughter said last night, Mom, when you were doing your vlog, why don't you do a vlog on your favorite craft supplies, things you can't live without? And so instantly my brain is like, ooh, if I ran out of blank, or if I didn't have any more of blank, then I would have to replace it right away. And so I went and sorted through it on what would I feel the need to absolutely have to replace if I ran out of it. And so I'm going to take you on that journey with me. If I ran out of duct tape, had no more duct tape, then I would feel like I was suffering, because duct tape, my favorite use for it is one, packing and mailing and making sure it doesn't fall apart, and two, bookbinding. Because I love to paint, if I ran out of paint, and I would just feel like I was lost. And so I like the metallics from Deco Art, and I like just the cheapy apple barrel matte white. And so I could run out of other colors, but I like the silver and gold metallics, and I would probably instantly replace these. And if I ran out of the matte white, I would instantly replace that too. What I don't have on my table, holy smacks. I don't have gesso on my table, but imagine gesso sitting in my hand right now. What I could not live without is gesso. If it runs out, I make some more. If I'm doing something official, then I'll buy the official gesso, because if I want it to last for years, you just never know on the ones that we home make, whether or not that will last for years and years. Although, you know, baking soda does have a chemical reaction with it, but it for the people who use some of the other supplies, I would recommend having, forget all the recommendations. I go off on these tangents so quickly. If I ran out of gesso, it would be, shoot, even if I come close to running low on gesso, I make some more. Or if I come low on my official gesso, I buy some more. So yeah, I don't even let it get low. I'm off to buying another one. Same's true for matte medium. For matte medium, I use the brand Liquitex, and I love my matte medium. So those are two other supplies that I don't have sitting in front of me, and I'm going to take you on a journey here. So you're going to be here a bit, or you can just log off if you don't care what I need. I go with some basics. If I love to paint, I love my bouquet of cheapy paintbrushes. I like the expensive ones too, but there's something awesome about not worrying about my paintbrush. I worry when I use some of the nicer ones. I'm like, oh, is this worthy of my nicer ones? But yeah, I love my cheapy paintbrushes. And so, isn't this a pretty little bouquet? These are all, and I took out the dirty ones. So these are all my clean bouquet of cheapy paintbrushes. And this is better than a bouquet of flowers for me. I mean, I know a story of two artists. One artist came to the other artist's house, and he asked her on a date. And when he asked her on a date, he brought a bouquet of paintbrushes. I love that story. And the name of the couple is Miles Schaefer. And so Miles and Schaefer co-sign the art that they do. I have some art of theirs in my house here somewhere. Yeah. This one, let me see if I can get there with my finger. That one right there. So one of these days I'll give you like a little art tour. But they are adorable in how they do their paintings. I understand one paints the left side of the painting, the other one paints the right side. One paints the background, the other one paints the foreground. And they obviously are a couple that stayed together, but it's just such a cute story. I just love that story. All right, I do get off on tangents now, don't I? I've got a few of the items down. Did I mention my coffee? Love of coffee. Oh yeah, I just wanted to cheat and get another sip because I love my coffee. buttons. Buttons look good on so many different things, whether you're doing mixed media or paper crafting. It's just, buttons look fabulous. Seems so simple, but a variety of buttons in different colors, a variety of buttons in similar colors. Buttons just jazz up things a little bit. Couldn't live without those. Along those same lines, lace. Mixed media projects and in craft projects, even card making, book making. In that world, I love my lace. I do like to store my lace in Ziploc baggies. I know that's kind of weird, but I feel like it protects them. And so this one is like a little lace tool blend. And I love scrap bits. I just see this and it makes me happy. So it's one of those supplies that, and I want this one crinkled up. I haven't distressed it because I haven't decided whether or not I want it to be brilliant white, so I don't really distress things in advance. We'll set that one aside. What's another thing I love? This is gonna be obvious. I couldn't live without this. I have so many of them. Scissors. But if I had to go down to just 2 pairs of scissors, and let's pretend we're not talking about sewing, because that would be 3 pairs of scissors, because that one, I couldn't live with that one. 2 pairs of painting and paper crafting scissors. One, if I need to just cut anything, I'm cutting ribbon with wire, I'm cutting magazines and I just want to rough cut them out, I'm cutting plastic, or, you know, if I'm rough cutting anything. These are, I can cut anything, even if they're sticky on it, scissors. I clean them, I abuse them. These are my scissors that just take all the abuse. They're kind of sticky right now even. I need to clean them again. Last time I checked scissor sharpness with my thumb, I got a good little cut on my thumb, and now I have a different cut on my finger when I dropped something right on the nail. My migraine's been killing me so much over the last couple of weeks of setting up this nonprofit that I can't even bite my nails. That's silly. I suppose it's a good side effect though. But that pinky nail got kind of long, and I'm not used to having long nails, and it just went ripped right in half, way down halfway on the pinky this morning. Anyway, scissors. Then my precision, super precision fussy cutting scissors. Love these. These just make me happy. These are just all kinds of fabulous, and they're cute too. I have a few different pairs of fussy cutting scissors, but these ones with their itty bitty point, just fabulous. Yeah, I like these scissors. Couldn't live without a really good pair of fussy cutting into the corners scissors. All the other scissors just surround and support the different things. It is funny how many pairs of scissors I have, but if someone was to tell me you could only have 1 pair of scissors, I don't know if I could do it. I have to have at least 2 pairs of scissors, the one for everything and the one for fussy things. So yeah, along those lines, we're still talking about cutting here for a second. My corner rounder. I do have those, you know, every one crafter, crocodile, chomper, whatever the heck those things are called. I have those. I almost never pull those out because I just always go to my good old handy dandy Creative Memories. Have had them for years and years. Sharpen them with an aluminum foil, folded up. Empty it out on the back side here. They're easy to manage, easy to grab, easy to travel with, are kind of loud, but I love them. They make a simple square piece of paper, a rectangular piece of paper look finished. Little tag around the bottom of the tag. Use them for paper crafting all over the place. Love this little thing. So thank you, Creative Memories, for making a product that has lasted so many years. So along those lines. I couldn't live without my circle punch, especially once I started making books. You know, you don't really think about it, but a circle punch is something that has so many different functions. It's not just for punching circles, even though it's a circle punch. Get a piece of paper. So for my circle punch, this one, I like when you can see the bottom side of it. I don't even know who makes this. Who makes this? EK Success. EK Success makes this. It's easy to squeeze. I like this one. I have another circle punch. I hate that circle punch. I do not like that circle punch because it's not one of the ones with this kind of squeezy. It's one of the ones where you push down from the top, and I don't have the same kind of finger strength or control when I do it that way. It's a two-handed process, and it's not easy. But this circle punch, love this one. Okay, ready? Put a little bit in there. You're ready for a ticket. Look at that. You know, you cover up the bottom. Now you see it, right? I love that a circle punch does that. And it's so simple. These aren't the same size. I didn't really fuss with it, but you can make it different sizes. Depends on what it is you're cutting. Like this is a big piece of paper. You might go with the bigger ones. But if you had an itty bitty piece of paper, you might want to go, and it all depends on how you eyeball it and put it in there. Another thing is because, oh, for the love of making books, the love of making junk journals, and the love of making pockets, just put it in halfway, like that, right? And let's assume this is a pocket, right? And I've put a glue strip on one side, a glue strip on the other side, a glue strip on the bottom, but I haven't attached it to the page yet because it doesn't look like a finished pocket, right? Well, now you take it about midway up on the circle there. Do you see that? How I've gone up half the circle? And now it looks like a pocket to me. Because if you have a little piece of paper, you pull in and out of there, and it's sitting like that, it makes you want to pull that piece of paper out. Just looks more finished. And of course, that's a circle punch. There's so many different uses for 1 inch. I like the 1 inch size because it gives me a better edge, but you can use it in layering and making things. But I probably use the circle part of the circle punch less than I use it for making pockets or decorating the little edges of things. Still on cutting. This is a rotary trimmer. I was not introduced to this until I created my very first quilt. And that was just over, oh shoot, almost 3 years ago now. And it's my first grandbaby. I was making a quilt. Thought that would be kind of fun, you know, for every grandchild that comes along. They have their own particular quilt that grandma made. I like that. So first quilt, get exposed to this rotary cutter. And oh, material scares me. Material scares me. I love it for if I'm ripping it and using it in mixed media or card making or book making. But to actually make something, I'm so impressed with the people who can make things that are wearable. But anyway, I get introduced to this rotary trimmer and a cutting mat. Prior to that, I had always used just a trimmer, you know, the kind that's stationary, and you just move the paper in, and it gets measured right there, and then you pull your little trimmer thing back. I think it's just called a paper trimmer. Anyway, prior to that, that's all I had ever used before. But now, with the rotary trimmer, I have such power in making books and angles and control. And I really enjoy being able to use the rotary trimmer for tasks that I had never done before. I feel more comfortable cutting leather with a rotary trimmer when I'm making a leather cover. And I wouldn't even consider putting leather inside of my paper trimmer, hence paper trimmer. but I have a pretty burly paper trimmer too. But I could live without that because I have this, and it takes up less space. So if I had to move back to the boat, that's what it would be. So, which by the way, the boat is gone, and the insurance company has officially said the boat is totaled. So that's done. I do get sidetracked, don't I? What else could I not live without?
Sorry, I'm not sure.
That was Alexa. Okay, this I could not live without my hole punch. Because when you're making a tag, that's just a little piece of paper I was doodling on. When you're making a tag and you don't have a hole in it, it doesn't look like a tag. I mean, it does kind of look like a tag, but if it doesn't have a hole, then it doesn't look like a tag to me. So, yeah, no. Have to have my hole punch. And I like this kind of hole punch because I just like the effort in squeezing it. I like the shape of it. I like the feel of it. I like this better than I like the Crop-A-Dile one. A lot of people love the Crop-A-Dile one, but I'm comfortable with the regular hole punch. And maybe they like the Crop-A-Dile because it goes through much thicker stuff. That's cool, and that would be useful. But that's what I have my awl for, and I couldn't live without my awl. When it comes to bookmaking, these two sharp objects are my go-tos. My awl was only like $3 or $4 at Walmart, and I couldn't live without it. It's what I poke through the paper, makes it easy. When I poke through the leather, makes it easy. I poke through cardboard, makes it easy. I'm not going to keep saying poke through, although it is fun to say that. All right, anyway, I love this awl, and it's such a simple tool. I do have cork that I put underneath it, but you could use a phone book or something and lay the phone book on your lap and poke towards the center of the phone book and not hurt yourself. Yeah, maybe don't lay it on your lap. Put the phone book on the table. So, yeah, the awl is a great tool if you're a bookmaker. Not so much for many of the other crafts, but certainly if you're a bookmaker. The upholstery needle, it's a critical tool to have if you're a booksmith. If you're making junk journals, if you're fixing something or upcycling something, the upholstery needles are critical to have. And then if I had to choose just one thread that I couldn't live without, it would be my elastic. And that's because I do love my wax thread, but I also like button thread. I like the thicker threads, I like twine, I like all those other things, and they can replace each other. But if somebody said, I'm taking out your elastic, ooh, yeah, I couldn't make my Midori's. So yeah, I couldn't live without my elastic. This one's only a couple of millimeters thick. Bought it at the Dollar Tree, came in a pack of like 5. The way I have them sorted, I just rip the 5 apart because it's just easier that way. But yeah, it's unlivable without some elastic thread. If I knew I was running down to only about this much, I would be getting some more elastic thread. What else can I not live without? Well, you saw me with my paintbrushes earlier, but this is gonna seem silly. I love my watercolor pencils, and so these are my watercolor pencils. These are easy to take with me on the go. A little watercolor brush. Don't really use that as much. I tend to use my brushes with the watercolor pencils, but this is a must-have for me. Even more so than acrylic paints. I find that it's easier for me to grab the watercolors. I play with the watercolors. I doodle with the watercolors. Do I have a little sample of something I doodled recently? Yeah, not on the tag. Oh, I do. I doodle with the watercolors. And then you can just come back and play, and it's just so smooth. It's so easy. It's so simple. Don't really have to think when you're playing with it. And they're fun to draw with. They're fun to just color with if you don't feel like putting water on them after. But it's a lot of fun. I enjoy them. And the other things I enjoy pen-wise is, I don't know if I already said this or not, because this is a retake. But my Sharpie. Couldn't live without my Sharpie. On the Sharpie, I have a playing card that I haven't finished yet. And on the back of this playing card, I was too lazy to sand it. And this is going to be an ATC Power Pack trading card. So after I add my word, if I choose to add anything else on the back, because I was too lazy to sand it, oh, for the love of Sharpie. Upside down and backwards for you, but oh, for the love of Sharpie. Essentially, what the Sharpie does for me is allows me to write on things, and when it fully dries, it's smudge proof. Let's see if I have an example of one. Now the thick one I can't have as much control, but look, it's done. It's smudge proof. And that's just a project I have currently sitting behind me to do. It's my little pack of power packs that I'm working on, and the inspiration card behind them. Other things I love are my paint pens. With my paint pens, then, let me just, oh, I don't need to demonstrate everything, but I couldn't live without my paint pens. And the reason I can't live without my paint pens is because when I'm making a card, or if I'm doing mixed media, or if I'm even just acrylic painting, these are acrylics, then these are just fabulous to have for the level of detail, the level of control, and you know, you don't have to keep refilling your brush if you're going to be doing a lot with some particular color. And I think they add the right kind of bright to what I'm working on. So I have several different sizes of these. I'm not sure that there's a particular size I couldn't live without. But I think it's important to have gold in my stash anyway, and it doesn't have to be yours. I have gold, silver, and white in 3 different sizes. Super fine tip, which drives me nuts, always gets clogged, makes me crazy. Could live without that, because it just really makes me crazy. But never get clogged on these 2 sizes. This is like a medium tip. What does it say it is? Silver, It doesn't tell me. Paint pen. Doesn't tell me the size of the tip. But there's the size of the tip for you. This one I use for thick lines, for calligraphy writing in art. And you can even use the top part for thin lines if you just don't want to go grab another pen. And so if I was to choose a size, I would go with the bigger one, I think, because you can control the size based on the way the tip is made. Along those lines, I always have to have a few different kinds of calligraphy pens. This one from Creative Memories, I bought so many years ago. I mean, like years and years and years ago. And because I bought so many, I haven't used all the ink in all of them. I have used all the ink in a few of them, but not all of them. Oops. And so in these calligraphy pens, I love them. It's the bold tip Creative Memories, and they're not the classic style calligraphy, but they're great practice pens or play pens, or if you just want to write a few words. It's simple, it's not messy, and they have beautiful ink. The color as it comes out, it's beautiful. So yeah, I like that for just doodling. I don't need a whole lot of them, but I always need to have one calligraphy pen somewhere handy, easy access, and I usually put it in my regularly used little acrylic box. And then when that one runs out, then I pull out another one. So at the time I did buy too many, but I don't really regret that because the ink is still solid, and it's probably been 10 years that I've had those pens. I already shared that with you. Speaking of ink, let's talk about StazOn for a minute. So somebody told me, what one brand of ink could you not live without? And my answer is StazOn. It's a solvent ink. It's one where you don't really want to put your alcohol sprays over the top of it because you don't want to blend whatever your ink base is, whether it's water-based or alcohol-based or whatever your ink base is. You need to know that because then you can't use the same thing with it or it'll blur. So that's why you don't use alcohol inks with StazOn. But with StazOn, you can use your acrylic paints. It doesn't bleed, it doesn't blend. You can use water-based things. It doesn't bleed, it doesn't blend. It's designed for non-porous surfaces. So if you wanted to stamp a plastic box, you could stamp it. If you wanted to stamp glass, you could stamp it. If you wanted to stamp metal or shrink plastic, I suppose that falls under plastic box. Laminated paper, I mean, you laminated something and all these people with all these really cute dashboards that are made out of plastic, you can stamp on it with StazOn. Cellophane's another kind of plastic. I need to stop listing plastics. How about, did I say aluminum foil? Because if you stamped on or you distressed or you did like a little art project with aluminum foil, you could do that. Let's say you have some metal keys and you want to stamp on your metal keys, then do that. Although, when you stamp on metal with StazOn, it comes out a little bit tacky when you touch it. So then you want to have some Krylon that you spray on afterwards to seal it so it's not tacky, but it still stamps on it, it still stays. You can stamp on leather with it and it stays. It doesn't, it's not like other stamps. I mean, StazOn is, it just stays on. I'm such a dork. Oh man, okay. But the other thing is let's say you're doing it for scrapbooking and you have your pictures, or if you're doing it for true painting art and you're doing it in mixed media, just make sure you don't blend it with alcohol-based items, otherwise it will reactivate it because it's in the same family. But it's archival safe, it's acid-free, and it's a fantastic ink. I do like the Timber Brown, but it still comes across as super, almost black to me. Maybe that's just me. There's a whole bunch of different kinds, but yeah, StazOn is my favorite. By far and away, my favorite. One daughter says to me, we were talking and she's a crafter and she's just a doll. She's so much fun. She's the one who has 100% of my jewelry making products right now because I just gave her all of them and stopped making jewelry a while back. Although I know that's going to start back up with the foundation, but that's okay. So she's, gosh, I get on tangents. I do. She's such a doll. She says to me, Mom, I tried to call you when I was out shopping for ink. And I don't always answer my phone. And she was talking about which kind of ink to buy. And then she says something about, I thought it was, I couldn't decide, but then I picked up StazOn, and I think that's the one that you always said. And anyway, I don't remember exactly how the conversation went back and forth, but she had it buried in the back of her head. You know, there's several things that you don't do when you grow up. You know, one is, you know, you never come home from the hospital without the little bulby thing for the baby. Number two is if you're using ink on your projects, use StazOn. And there's some other goofy tips that she says are buried in her head, which make me chuckle. All right, washi tape. I have a bunch of different kinds, but if someone was to say you could only have a couple of washi tapes, I would have a good black and white with a print on it, and I would have something with a pop of color. And if you gave me three, I would have one with duct tape, and not this big duct tape, but the littler ones. So yeah, that's it. Those would be my minimums. I need something with a pop of color. It doesn't have to be green. It's just I picked out one with a pop of color. I picked out one with a good little decorative print, black and white. This one I think is Tim Holtz. This one I think I got from Target in like a little stack of them, but I'm really not sure. I don't have a ton of washi tape. Some people have a whole lot of them, but I do have a few. I say I don't have a ton. I probably have 20, something like that. what could I not live without in addition? And I still have these things on my table in front of me, and I'm not done. Oh, we were talking about jewelry for a second. Let me talk about these. Even though I gave her 100%, I did go back to the store and buy myself a few very small things because they come in handy when you're making things. The only jewelry type thing I've done since I've given her my stash was I repurposed a whole bunch of lost earrings so you don't have both earrings. And so I used the ones with the round tips, and I never remember what these are called, but I used the one with the round tips to curl the ends, turn them into a charm. Sometimes the tips were too long, so I had to cut them. And so I have a little cutter for that. And then sometimes you needed to hold it while you cut them. So I just have a little bitty pliers. These are needle nose pliers-ish. I mean, they are needle nose, so yeah, they're pretty pointy. But I used to have more intense needle. So if I were to choose them, they would be these 3 jewelry making tools. And I still feel like I have to have them in my stash because you come across something and you need to cut it, bend it, or hold it, it's all there. And that's very helpful in my stash. We were talking about ink for a bit, and I'm about to do an experiment with glue. And I want to see which glues reactivate when you paint over them or when you spray inks over them. And I have a bunch of different glue sticks. I have Eileen's glue and of course Mod Podge, which is a PVA glue mixed with water. And I have a bunch of different kinds of glues, but I only want to try a few of the glue sticks in that project because I love taking glue sticks with me, but when I come home, sometimes when I paint back over it, it reactivates the glue, or it just doesn't come out right. So if there's somebody with a good YouTube video that already has that happens to be watching that now, save me the effort of going and doing that experiment, then let me know, because I haven't found that yet where they've done a full-on experiment with all the different kinds of glue sticks. The one I find that I use the most is Elmer's Craft Bond, and it just is extra strength. And so this Elmer's Craft Bond is a good glue stick. Now, for the love of paper, I have several different kinds of paper, and I will tell you why they're all important to me. These are basics for me. I need paper with some pretty. I just need pretty paper. And whether or not this pretty paper is something that, here, I'm giving that one away. This one I'm keeping. Okay, so this one right here is paper that I'm about to make a project out of. And I'm about to make a whole bunch of little micro mini books that fit inside of other books. I'm silly, I know. But beautiful paper. Doesn't matter what the print is. Doesn't matter if it's black and white. Doesn't matter if it's, 80s style. I mean, just paper with prints. It doesn't matter if it's Serenity papers that are, instead of being ink on paper that someone else has done, this piece is painted on by some acrylic paints. It's still paper with paint on it, paper with ink on it. It's just pretty paper is something I truly couldn't live without. I couldn't live without my craft folders because in a pinch, this is what I use if I'm out of cardstock to make cards. But making cards is one of my greatest serenities, and so I'm almost out of my cardstock with all the cards lately, but the cardstock that I use just has to be a fairly good weight. I don't know what this one is, but enough where when you fold it, it feels like a valued card. Or it feels like a manila folder. That's what I like it to feel like. Manila folders are something that I find super useful to upcycle into so many different projects. And I really couldn't live without my stash of manila folders. So in this case, if I ran out of pretty papers, I would paint some or buy some. If I ran out of manila folders, I would go buy some. I know that seems silly, but I would, because I just love, I love the color of them, and I love the use of them. If I ran out of cardstock, which I'm coming really close, I get that sense that I really need to go get some. I don't remember where I got this from, but it's $2.99 for 25 of them, so it's a little bit more than, well, I don't need to price it, but it's not like it's expensive. It's just, it's a base. It's a must-have in my stash. The other kind of paper is magazine paper, so I have all different kinds of magazines, and I love magazines. These magazines are something that I find are my serenity when I'm traveling. So I take my big scissors with me if I'm in a car. And yeah, you shouldn't use scissors when you're in a car. Yep, you're right. And I'll flip to any page and I'll find items on that particular page that I want to cut out. And because you don't want to be fussy cutting if you're bouncing, right? So then I'll cut out that. But if I'm sitting in a hotel room, I also have my fussy cutting scissors, and then I'll fussy cut them out. So it's a good thing where you're only taking a couple items with you and you can still craft. This just fell out. Something like this is funny because I see this in an ad. It's just a toilet with some toilet paper. And instantly, it looks like a friend card where it's like, I'm so sorry you had such a crappy day or a crappy experience. I mean, there's so many funny things you can do that pull you out of the box when you're flipping through a magazine, and is different than any other card or any other thing. And when you're making cards, I couldn't live without this stash of stamps. This is made by Tim Holtz. I did get it from Stampers Anonymous, but this stash of stamps with these words are fabulous. You have a happy birthday and make a wish and congratulations and tell your story. I mean, you've seen me use these in other cards that I've made. I've only had these for about a year, but if someone was to say, oh, you don't have any more, yeah, I could write them. But these are such a nice variety that I really don't want to live without them. I could live without them, but I don't want to live without them. Last but not least, if I don't drop everything, it's my cutting mat. I have a couple of different kinds of cutting mats, but this is the one that I find easiest for me to take with me, easiest to use. And so when I have my cutting mat and ruler, I feel like I can do anything. Even if I didn't have scissors, I could just rip the paper. So yeah, I couldn't live without my cutting mat because it protects whatever the areas that I'm working on. So thanks for putting up with me and listening to all the different supplies that I find are necessary in my craft room. And surprisingly, it all does just fit right in front of me, just small and right here, except for my bouquet of paintbrushes. But this is a lot of fun to craft, and I consider these my basics. It seems silly to consider them my basics, but I do. I like to have all of these nearby. I like to have all of these handy, and whatever craft I'm doing, one of these supplies is being used in or more. All right, thanks, take care, and have a wonderful day.